Hello, I'm Nick Cyphers, and today I'm going to be discussing Ferry Farm, the childhood home of George Washington, which was mentioned indirectly in two of our assigned readings this week, the Mastromarino Biography of George Washington and the Fable of George Washington and the Cherry Tree. Ferry Farm is located on the northern bank of the Rappahannock River in Stafford County, Virginia. The plantation is across the river from the City of Fredericksburg. The property was described as lying about 2 miles below the falls of Rappahannock, close on the riverside with a very handsome dwelling house, 3 storehouses, several other convenient outhouses, and a ferry belonging to it, though the ferry was not owned or operated by the Washingtons. The first European claim to the land was a patent granted in 1666. In 1710, the tract was subdivided into smaller lots, with Maurice Clark owning what would become Ferry Farm. In 1738, Augustine Washington, George's father, acquired the plantation. While he already owned several thriving plantations, he moved his family, consisting of his second wife Mary Ball and 5 children, including a 6-year-old George Washington, to Ferry Farm. In Mark Mastromarino's biography, he mentions that George inherits Ferry Farm upon the death of his father in 1743. Mastromarino states that the modest situation of the property was not enough to maintain a middling status in the Virginia gentry, which implied that this humbleness would provide Washington with the motivation to succeed, which continued throughout his life. Washington remained at Ferry Farm and called it his home until approximately 1754. In 1774, Ferry Farm passed out of the Washington family hands when it was sold to Dr. Hugh Mercer. In 1928, the George Washington Foundation purchased 160 acres of the land to turn the farm into a historic shrine. This attempt failed. After World War II, a second attempt also failed. In 1972, Ferry Farm was added to the National Register of Historic Places. In 1993, 36 acres were donated to the George Washington Boyhood Home Foundation in order to develop Ferry Farm as a historical attraction. In 1998, Congress passed a bill to include Ferry Farm as a part of the George Washington Birthplace National Monument, protecting the site in perpetuity. In 2000, Ferry Farm was designated a National Historic Landmark. Historically, this location is tied to one of the most well-known George Washington legends, that of his inability to lie. I'm sure everyone is aware of this story, and not just because of our reading this week. However, to recap, young George receives a hatchet and happened to chop down his father's favorite cherry tree. When confronted by his father, young George says, "I can't tell a lie, Pa. You know I can't tell a lie. I did cut it with my hatchet," thus establishing George Washington's honesty and integrity forever. The overall theme of Ferry Farm is experiencing colonial life. Within that is the ability to see how locations shaped George Washington's life. I believe a visit to the site would be educationally beneficial because it allows all to glimpse what life was like before our arguably most famous founding father was a household name. Not only does it provide the ability to see what day-to-day life was like for an average middle-class Virginian, but it also provides us a view of motivators that would help young George Washington become George Washington, Commander-in-Chief of the Continental Army and the first President of the United States.